The Chicago Bulls held their media availability today. Spoke to AK and Billy as well as a bunch of players. Give you my reactions right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome back to a Whole Lot of Bull. I'm Troy. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Troy, but please follow the show more importantly at a Whole Lot of Bull. All right, guys. So the Chicago Bulls held their media day today. Obviously, a whole bunch of other things, a whole bunch of things happen at media day. The guys have their photo shoots in their different jerseys. We've seen some of the behind the scenes stuff. The new red pinstripes uniform is looking absolutely mint. We've seen Yuki Kawamura and Josh Giddey and I think some others as well in the new but old school black and red pinstripe uniform. Can't wait to get my hands on one of those. I dead set I'm getting a Martis Buzelis, one of those ones. When those things come out, Chicago, you can take my money. I don't give a shit what anyone says about spending money on the Chicago Bulls. I love my team, and if I want to spend my money on them, I'm gonna spend my fucking money. All right, so a tourist kind of show us and Billy Donovan obviously start off proceedings with um, with the media availabilities. Now, unfortunately, YouTube doesn't put them in chronological order. So I don't know. Obviously, apart from AK and Billy going first, don't really know the order. So I'm going to go through the order that I watched them in because obviously each one is recorded differently. So just a few things that AK probably more specifically spoke about. Now, the focus on winning every game and developing young players. Now, I only haven't seen some reactions on Twitter. I haven't seen other podcasters shows as of yet as a recording. Doing that after I've finished this one. I dare say, and well, from what I've seen on social media, a lot of people, a lot of fans are not quite happy about it. Um, Saying how can you focus on player development yet you want to win every game? Well, players how do you expect a young player how do you expect young players like a Josh Giddey, a Marcus Buzelis, and Noah Essengay, how do you want them to develop winning habits in a losing environment? The two don't work together. Now you can say, yes, of course, the players and the coaches, you expecting them to come in with a winning mentality to win every game. It's the front office that should be having that losing mentality. I think that's just a bunch of bullshit, to be quite honest with you, and to me, it's a lazy way of thinking. Now, I know a lot of people are pro tank, um, and at the end of the day, if that's how you feel that's the best way to build a team, so be it. I mean, that's your way. Doesn't mean that works for every organization. You see there's teams out there like the Oklahoma City Thunder that can have a quick 2 year drop down the bottom, but have great asset management and they're right skyrocketing right back up to the top and eventually win a title like OKC did last year. And yet you see these teams constantly, and probably the bigger examples like the Charlotte Hornets, the Utah Jazz, these kind of teams that just sit down the bottom constantly for years on end, and despite high lottery pick after high lottery pick after high lottery pick, they're still stuck down the bottom. And I'm sorry, as a Chicago Bulls fan, that I don't want that for my franchise. I don't want to see the Bulls stuck down the bottom year after year after year after year with these pathetic franchises, to be quite frank. Now, you can obviously make the argument that tanking, getting a high lottery pick is your quickest way back up. And shout out to Kelder in my Twitter mentions say like that's the cheapest and easiest. Well, it can be the laziest as well. for an organization that doesn't know what they're doing and clearly just are relying on to me. And the reason I find that the laziest way of doing it to me spells says it now. And obviously there are a few exceptions to the rule. Like I just said, Oklahoma City, the Detroit Pistons spent a number of years down the bottom deliberately tanking games. Still only walked away after how many years of finishing in the bottom 3 of the league, walked away with one number 1 pick being Cade Cunningham. Orlando Magic, had a good had to end up with Paolo Banchero. I mean, these are teams that Detroit mostly was still just fucking trash. And, I'm sorry, that's just not a path I wanna go down. And ultimately, you're relying on lottery luck to get you that superstar player. And at the same time, that doesn't guarantee that come the end of that contract, that rookie scale contract, well, that they're not gonna demand a trade at some point into the first year of that fresh extension. It's a lottery for a reason. It's a complete utter gamble. And when it comes to the Chicago Bulls, yes, we haven't got that guy yet, and yes, we still need to get that guy. But tanking and pulling everything apart and going straight to the bottom is not the only way to do that. We see, let's go back to the Brooklyn Nets when they had a great young team. They had the Spencer Dinwiddies and the D'Angelo Russells and a whole bunch of these other guys. They were a very young team, coached very well, and they ended up attracting the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden ended up coming. A team that because they saw, especially with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they saw what this young team was putting together, and these guys were excited by that and wanted to go play with that. Now, ultimately, in the long run, did that work out for the Brooklyn Nets? No. You know, Kevin Durant ends up going to Phoenix. Kyrie moves on. I think it was Dallas straight after that. So things don't always work out. That's basketball. That's sport. But at the end of the day, if fans out there want to argue that tanking's the best route, man, that's your view. I'm just not going to agree with it. That's just not how I roll. I want to see my team going out for victories every single night. I want my front office, my from the front office to the 15th player on the bench out there to win every single game. From top to bottom, I want everyone with a winning mentality. That's how young players are also going to develop winning culture and winning basketball and actually start impacting wins and start becoming a team that is actually going to win and get to the playoffs and start contending. Now, obviously, Torres Karnisovas also preaching patience, and I know there's a lot of Bulls fans out there who are also saying about, oh, it's the same old Bulls playing this, playing that, 39 wins back to back years. One thing you cannot do with this iteration of the Chicago Bulls is compare it to the last iteration. Getting 39 wins and losing in the play-in with a team led by Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vučević, Alex Caruso, he's in that too, is very, very different than a team. Now, as Phil from Just Another Year Chicago Bulls pointed out, take Nikola Vucevic out of the team. Like, yes, he is a very important part of this team still, but let's take his number, take him out of this team just for the sake of argument. Becomes on average average age of like 23 and a half, instantly the youngest team in the league. Now, yes, Oklahoma City last year was the youngest team in the league and won the title. But having a team that's led by a 22-year-old Josh Giddey, a 24, 25-year-old Coby White, a 20-year-old Marcus Buzelis, and that team winning 39 games and getting to the play-in is very, very different than that DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine era. It just is. Because one team, that DeMar DeRozan led team, was at the pinnacle. These guys are over 30, all over 30 years old or at 30. Whereas this version of the team The oldest guy in the core is 25. So it's two very, very different things. I'm sorry, you just cannot compare the 2. Now, he was asked about Coby White's long-term future in Chicago. Obviously, he's not gonna get into specifics, in conversations regarding, contract discussions, but he did say that he will be having discussions with Coby White and his representatives when the time comes, and obviously the expectation and Kobe has let it be known reportedly that he will not be signing an extension this coming season, and he will go into unrestricted free agency next off season. And then obviously we got the little bit of injury news there about Kobe White. He strained his calf muscle back in August, so he's going to be very limited throughout training camp and the preseason. And hearing that it is a calf strain, and Kobe did talk about this later on, in his own press conference as well. They're obviously gonna take this very, very slowly considering the very real link, and I don't understand why it's considered a connection. It absolutely is a definite reason why these guys that have torn their Achilles in recent times, you see, you know, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, we've seen Kevin Durant do it in the past in the finals for Golden State. All these guys have torn, and Tyrese Halliburton as well. All these guys have suffered calf strains before they've snapped their Achilles. Luckily here for the difference is now going back to Kevin Durant, it was in the finals. Tyrese Halliburton, it was in the finals. Jason Tatum, it was in the playoffs. Damian Lillard, it's in the playoffs. So these torn Achilles have happened in times where their teams needed him out on the court. Luckily for Coby White, training camp is starting tomorrow. The injury happened a month ago, 4 weeks ago. So Kobe's got plenty of time to rest and recuperate, get that calf muscle 100% before he gets back on the court. Some of the things that they talked about, what they want from this team to what they want their identity to be is more defensive toughness, and that's a huge reason why they went out and got Isaac Okoro in that deal for Lonzo Ball. And part of that on-court toughness and part of what their overall identity or what they want them to be is a far more defensive-minded team. They need to generate extra possessions from turnovers, charges, offensive rebounds, all that sort of stuff, and just being a tougher team overall. And that's where Isaac Okoro comes in, and he's going to provide that presence for the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, AK and Billy did speak about a whole bunch of other stuff. Billy spoke about Martis's development last year, how he barely played, and why the reasons um, why Martis didn't play early on. He mentioned there was a point there where Martis came to him midway through the season and said he was exhausted, and this was when he wasn't playing that much. So obviously, so again, credit to, and this is something I've learned since Martis has come out and said how much he appreciates how Billy has treated him, like treated his rookie season in terms of even though he thought he was ready, he clearly wasn't, and Billy brought him along the right way. Now, Nikola Vučević, now he was the first player I got to see. Now, again, I'm doing these in order that I saw them, not how I don't know how they actually happened at media day today. So if they're out of order, is what it is. Now, one of the things that Vucevic was constantly asked about was basically his age. Is is he looking towards the end of his career? He's blowing all that sort of stuff. Says he feels great. Retirement's not in his mind. The only reason that he retired from international basketball is because he wants to spend his summers with his family, especially as his kids are getting a little bit older. His family do want him around a little bit more, but that has no impact on his NBA career at this stage. He was asked about Joe Cowley, being typical Joe, just asked him about the trade rumors, and it's something that Vucevic said that didn't cross his mind basically whatsoever. Maybe at the draft it did because that was probably the time it was most likely to happen. But after that, He didn't really think about it at all, and he was more focused on getting ready for Eurobasket and enjoying his last time, representing his country in Montenegro. And he got asked, I believe it was from Sam Smith, um, does he s now how he's getting older, the team dynamic is changing, it's a much faster team. Does he see his role changing, with the Chicago Bulls? He doesn't expect his role to change whatsoever. That's not a conversation that he's had with Billy Donovan. So don't expect anything different from Nikola Vučević in his role. And he is also focused on being a good leader, a good veteran, around the team as well, and helping these young guys develop. And he actually said that he feels quite young himself, even though he's like 30, going on 35 years old. He's feeling nice and fresh physically and mentally. So he feels a bit younger than what he is. So that it's great to see that Vooch is feeling quite good about himself as well. Ayo Dosunmu. Now, obviously, the big talk with Ayo was that coming back from that shoulder injury. Now everything went ahead of schedule for him. He talked about doing the band workouts and stuff coming out of surgery and how he progressed. Now, basically, I think it was come July. He said he was basically back to full contact. So everything went ahead of schedule and essentially had a normal off season, like a normal summer, despite the injury. I mean, obviously, guys are quick healing, and they got into that surgery um, pretty soon once he finished playing. Once they ruled him out for the rest of the season, they got him into surgery and got it fixed up. And I think, if I remember rightly, he had that injury for quite some time before they actually diagnosed it correctly. So, I mean, I could have had that fixed up well and truly and been at full pace right as the off season was starting, had they diagnosed it correctly. I always also asked what he thinks his potential for Mardos Buzelis is, and it's quite simply, sky's the limit when it comes to Mardos Buzelis. And one of the questions was, I think it may have been from Will Gottlieb from CHGO, was asked about what did he think that the team lacked overall last season, especially defensively, and for the most part, just lacked consistency. And that's something I can definitely agree on. Spoke about how, yeah, definitely in spurts here and there that the defense was great. Um, and yes, while you're gonna, as a team, as a player, you're gonna have a bad game defensively, but you need that consistency throughout the season. Bad games are gonna happen, but you can't have those ups and downs all the time. You need to have a good, baseline of consistency, with your defensive efforts. So totally agree on, with what Io said about that. And it was Sam Smith as well who asked Io, now with the depth at the guard position, obviously Josh Giddey, Coby White, Trey Jones is back. And you got the bald-headed hoe, Javon Carter, still on the roster as well for some fuck knows what reason. How does Io see himself fitting, and is he concerned about any potential lack of playing time? Simple answer from Io was his way that he's gonna fit into this team is being himself, being Ayo Dosunmu. He's the jack of all trades, the Swiss Army knife type of player that he is. Can score, defend, rebounds, handle the ball, play make. He can do it all, and has no concern whatsoever about his minutes coming into the season. And he was asked about his impending free agency. Not focused on free agency whatsoever. One day he's thinking one day at a time. And some of these answers from some of these players about free agency, I think Coby White spoke about it as well. It's a cliche. And some of the players as well, I believe, were asked about would they speak to the front office or would they suggest any changes? And they say, these guys mentioned that they got full faith in the front office and the players that they got around them. Well, honestly, when you ask these type of questions, what do you expect the players to say? No, I want this guy traded. I want that guy traded. Okay, go get me this guy. Go trade this guy because he's no good. We get him out. Just get him out of here. Do you really think they're going to tell the media? Like, do you really think that you're going to say that to the media? Now, could they do it behind closed doors? Yeah, possibly. Who knows? But do you really think media? Do you really think they're going to tell you that? No, it's not happening. And Martis Buzelis, man, I love this kid. And yeah, this kid is going to be an absolute ripper. I love this kid already. He's very close to being my yeah. He's a favorite, and I can't wait to get grab that jersey with the red pinstripes. So feels no pressure at all on taking a jump, and he does think that the team is going to surprise a lot of people. Now he worked out one thing that he learns from his rookie off season and after playing one season in the NBA, going to coming out of the draft, he didn't really know what he needed to work on, and he was just working on absolutely everything, which nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Like every player, as far as I'm concerned, needs to work on absolutely everything. But learning after one season in the NBA, he learned what he really needed to hone in on and truly focus on. And he did mention what they were, but I didn't seem to write those down because that's bad note taking on my part. Um, no, I did. Sorry, I did write it down. So shooting off the dribble, and some of these things of a couple of these things of things I've said I want him to see him to do. So shooting off the dribble, reading when defense goes under screens and taking the shots on those. He also mentioned ball handling and setting screens. So yeah, he wants to be a better ball handler and he wants to get better at setting screens as well. So those are the things that he really focused in on during the off season. And I think shooting off the dribble also kind of plays part into what I've said before about him creating his own shots as well, not just rely on getting his shots assisted. He was asked about how has he found his newfound uh, being a celebrity, and he said he hears his father in his head all the time about staying humble, and so even though he's become very popular person around Chicago and in the NBA landscape itself, he knows in himself that he needs to stay humble, and it and again this go what he said about he said there was enough in the room. Now that was a question thrown to him again, like would he feel comfortable about going to the front office about players, and he's got full faith in his guys. Full faith in everyone on the roster, full faith in the front office. Now, again, what else do you expect him to say? But when the way that Marta said it and the type of person he is, yeah, I completely believe that Martis has full faith on everyone on the roster. And then he also talks about talking to absolutely everybody because he wants to learn, and that being from the coaching staff to the security guy in at the United Center or at the Advocate Center. No matter who he talks to, he wants to learn from anyone. Also spoke about his body change being one of the biggest things. Now, he did say that, yes, while he does want to get bigger and stronger, he also doesn't want to sacrifice his ability to move on the court and his agility and his quickness. So yeah, so and there's definitely ways that Midas can definitely get bigger and stronger while without losing any of um, that explosiveness that he has and that quickness around the court as well. Now, Midas was also asked about his what are the benchmarks for the team and for himself. Now, flat out, the benchmark for the team is winning a championship, just just flat out winning in general, and that's the same for every single player. They're all about winning, so that's what I want him go see him go do. But his personal goals, he wants to win the most improved player. And he wants to be coached as if he's an all defensive level player, and he wants to be great defensively. So I think, yeah, one of the questions that he was asked, like, come the end of the season, what does he want people to go wow about when it comes to his game being great defensively? And shout out to the lady from the Japanese reporter who asked Martis, Kobe, and Josh Giddey all about their thoughts and opinions and stories on Yuki Kawamura. Um, it was great, and like all the guys' reactions to answering Yuki, like they all love the guy. And Martis mentioned that how much of a trash talker he is. Martis even just went on to say about how he goes to even say hello to Yuki, and Yuki's already talking shit. But he goes on to mention about how much of a hard worker that Yuki is, and just how enjoyable he is to be around. So obviously Yuki's got an infectious personality. Guys love him, and I'm sure he's going to be a great asset to the Windy City Bulls. But yeah, there's a lot of love there for Yuki Kawamura. And so Josh Giddey, again, the focus for Josh, sorry, not for Josh Giddey, Coby White, excuse me. Josh Giddey was the last one I saw. So Kobe, like every player, is focused on winning. That's the attitude. He's not thinking ahead to free agency next season. He's talking about living in the moment, but he wants to stay in the moment. Loves Chicago. He's not has no thoughts ahead of free agency. I'm sure there is a little bit in the back of his mind, but ultimately his focus is on what's happening now at training camp, and then getting into preseason and starting the regular season. He did speak about obviously the loyalty he feels from the front office. Now he did mention that yeah, he is the longest tenured Bull, and he is a player that the AK and Mark obviously inherited from the previous front office in Garpax. He was asked about his goals for the season, like personally. Obviously, every every player is going to say that the goal is to win games. So, getting specifically to him as a player himself, um, he wants to become an all-star caliber player. He didn't say that he wants to be an all-star. He just wants to be an all-star caliber player, and he wants to get to that. He wants to be able to shoot 40% from three. That's something he hasn't done yet in his career. So that's definitely a goal for him this coming season. Talked about how he's changed his diet. He went on some sort of diet where he was eating fish for a month and like salmon. But he's allergic to shell food. So he couldn't have any of that. But it only lasted for a month. He's mentioned how he stopped eating red meat. He just eating fish and chicken. That's part of his diet, and a lot of people tend to forget how important a player's diet is in their performance as an athlete. And that's something, you know, Justin from Justin Talks Hoops on Twitter, that's something that he can attest to as well. Being a former fighter himself, and now if you follow his gym workouts, he can quite easily tell you how important it is for a player's diet in their performance, and that just goes with everyday living as well. But it's especially more important for high performing athletes. He also spent a bit of time with Josh Giddey in the off season. He did talk about how obviously when Josh came over from OKC last year, there was a bit of a struggle because Josh came over. He was very very quiet, very reserved. But obviously, once Kobe got to know Josh, they developed a great chemistry. And yeah, Josh being the typical Aussie, told him about the drop bear myth. How here in Australia we have bears up in trees that will drop on you as you walk by. Guys, it's not true. It doesn't happen, or does it? Let you find out you for yourself when you come down under. But yeah, also they've had meaningful conversations over the off season. Now Josh Giddey's been in Australia for quite a lot for the majority of the off season. So maybe did Coby White sneak down under a couple of times because he's Kobe mentioned how he spent time with Josh's family. So that made me think: has Kobe snuck into the country, or obviously maybe the couple of times when Josh has run back to the USA, his family have gone over with him as well, or maybe he's got family over there. But yeah, Kobe White did mention that he spent some time with Josh and his family. So Kobe did reiterate that the slow go with his calf injury is due to that connection with Achilles, torn Achilles injuries, and the caution has nothing to do with his upcoming free agency. And he spoke about his excitement to play with Isaac Okoro and like the physicality and the defensive presence that Isaac is going to bring to the team. I know C Red Fred is lapping that up. Now, didn't consider talking to the front office about moves. Again, this is something that all players are going to tell the media, regardless of what the truth is behind closed doors. But got full faith in his teammates. And last but not certainly least, Josh Giddey. Majority of it was talking about his free agency. So this one's gonna. So this little quick recap with Josh Giddey is going to be pretty quick. No hard feelings with the front office. Happy to be locked into that 4-year contract. Understands complete business. He left majority of all the negotiations to his agent, but he was kept up to date with things that he needed to know. Didn't really think about restricted free agency at all. He wanted to be in Chicago, so being a Bull is what he wanted. He had, now, even with the new contract, he doesn't feel any pressure of new expectations, and he have doesn't feel any changes of expectations on himself. And one thing he does want to improve on, the biggest thing he wants to improve on is being a leader and being an extension of Billy Donovan on the court. He did go on to mention that how he needs to use his voice a lot more as a leader on the court, but obviously the on court stuff he wants to improve his shooting, improve his defense. He did mention that the back half of last season, like he did feel like he had a massive improvement defensively, but acknowledged that he still had that game against Luka Doncic where Luka cooked him for 30 points in the first half in LA. But that's Luka. Who hasn't he done that to? Let's just face facts. So I know there's a lot of people out there in that game say, "Oh, Josh Giddey's fucking trash at defense. Luka torched him for 30 points in the first half." Well, Luka's done that to a lot of players and a lot of good defenders. But yeah, Josh was with happy with how his defense improved in the back half of last season, but knows more work needs to be done. And is excited about the physicality that Isaac Okoro is going to bring to the team as well. All right, guys, so that just gives you my quick um my reactions to media day. Most of it's just a bunch of spin that the front office and coaching staff and players put together. It's all a lot of cliche stuff there. Ultimately, I want to see what happens on the court. That's the most important part for me because you can say one thing at media day. What happens on the court is what matters. So today, as you Americans are waking up to this episode, it's going to be the first day of training camp and practices getting underway, and I'm looking forward to seeing what reports come out of these training camp practices. But yeah, getting back to the conversation about Bulls fans are mad that the front office wants to win every single game with this young core. I mean, I put a little post up on Twitter about it. Then why you're so mad is because it's not the way that you want it done. I've I mean, again, while I say that, yes, well, if that's how you want things done, that's how they want things done. But at the end of the day, the reality is, especially with Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, frankly, you're going to have to get over wanting to tear it down and tank. It's not going to happen. And frankly, I'm not a fan who wants my team sitting down the bottom of the league standings for year after year after year after year. That's just not it's not entertaining to watch. We've been there, done that. Didn't result in anything good for us. So been there, done that, like I just said, and Yeah, I'm excited to what's to come for this team. I'm looking forward to Marcus Buzelis and Coby White and Josh Giddey, seeing what Noah Essengate can bring. Now, I think they also did mention, yeah, he's probably going to be a slow bring along as well, which we all expect. And obviously, they mentioned that, excuse me, that the biggest thing that Noah needs to work on is his physical strength. He does have this. He's already got a good basketball IQ. Knows where he needs to be and when knows where not to be. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode of Whole Lot of Bull. I'm just looking forward. I'm just glad that media day is done now. The off season's over. Thank hell for that. And now we can actually start looking forward to some actual hoops. Preseason basketballs does start next week, so we still got a week until we've got some actual Bulls game, some game day to talk about. But yeah, we finally made it through the off season. It's done. It's dusted. Media days now been and gone. You beauty. Let's just get into some basketball. All right, guys. So don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at Whole Lot of Bull. You can follow me personally if you like at Bulls_Troy. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the video around. Let's help this channel grow. Um, as I've mentioned before, if you guys are into Australian basketball and the NBL, don't forget to check out my channel over there at Whole Lot of NBL. And you can follow me on Twitter there as well at Whole Lot of NBL. So until next time, guys, see red, go Bulls. Let's get it.